This is Scoop with Coop. I'm your host, Coop, and you too. We back, and we better than ever, baby. You know what the hell going on. We're here to break down all the playoff matchups and give you a little breakdown of the NFC and AFC, and I'm also give you some predictions. Go ahead and drop my music.
They're not moving me.
This is Scoop with Coop. This is Scoop with Coop.
Ooh.
This is Scoop with Coop. This is Scoop with Coop. Yeah. This is Scoop with Coop. This is Scoop with Coop.
Ooh.
Backing them better than ever. Backing them better than ever. Yeah.
They're not moving me. They're not moving me.
No. It's about to get real juicy.
Getting right into the AFC, let's go ahead and get started with the Houston Texans versus the Chargers. Now, this is a matchup with two head coaches that are very, very defensive-minded. DeMeco Ryans and the Texans have not been playing their best football over the past, really the back end of this season. But they do have hope because the Chargers have a young quarterback who also has 0 playoff victories, with CJ Stroud having 1 playoff victory, which works in the Texans' advantage. This game has a spread of 3 points favoring the Chargers. And the Texans, let's just be honest, they've been playing like shit. We're looking at a matchup that I honestly and truthfully think will be very low scoring. Like I said, it has a spread of 3 points favoring the Chargers, but the Texans have the 6th ranked defense in the NFL, while the Chargers have the 11th. Looking at the Chargers offense, they have J.K. Dobbins, who came back about a week or two ago, and we know what kind of season J.K. Dobbins has had, but the Texans have also had a stout run defense, and with Stingley back there on our defense, I think Stingley can bring Lad McConkey and Quentin Johnson a lot of problems, as they've been having a lot of success at the end of the season. Now, for the Texans side, when it comes to offense, Joe Mixon, you gotta get him involved early, whether it's the pass game, the run game. Losing Tank Dell was a big deal. How much that hurt CJ Stroud? I mean, damn. Look at the last 3 to 4 weeks of their offensive production, and you'll see how much it hurt him. They are piss poor, and they just signed Deontay Johnson off waivers, but is he the one to save you when he hasn't played any downs in a real-life action for your team? I don't know. Playoffs really isn't the time to develop a chemistry between quarterback and receiver. In this matchup, I'm still taking the Texans to cover the spread, and I do have the Texans winning this game. Moving along, staying in the AFC, we have the Ravens versus the Steelers. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm thinking the same thing. We have a divisional matchup. This is the 3rd time meeting this season, and these are two teams that has an immense amount of history. Lamar Jackson versus Russell Wilson. Now, I'll start by saying this. The Steelers have been straight. I don't know how they're going to establish anything on offense, because really the root of this is getting Najee Harris and Jalen Warren involved, because the passing game of the Steelers, with George Pickens being your number 1 and really your only viable passing option who's been producing throughout the year, I don't see the Steelers having any chance of winning this game. But I will say, I do think the game will be very close, as both of these defenses historically and currently also have been playing very well. The test early is Russell Wilson going to get guys like Mike Williams, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Darnell Washington, and Pat Freiermuth involved, and maybe even Jalen Warren involved in a passing game, because they're going to need as much as they can, as the Ravens' run defense is very stout. I do have the Steelers covering the 8.5 point spread in this game, but ultimately the Ravens are just too much, and I have them winning the game. The last game in the AFC this weekend will be the Bills versus the Browns. This game opened up with an 8.5 point spread favoring the Buffalo Bills. Now, I do think this game will also be tight, but there's some things that the Broncos have to do to overcome the Bills. I think Bo Nix has to utilize his legs throughout this entire game. Being this his first playoff game against somebody who's such a veteran in Josh Allen, I don't think the Broncos are really just set up to win a game like this. And I don't think they even thought they would be here in this position. But shout out to them. Shout out to Sean Payton. The Bills offense this year is on a historical pace. They can do whatever the hell they want. But the only thing saving the Broncos in this is that their defense has been one hell of a group. Okay? They've been one hell of a group in a run game, and they've been one hell of a group in a passing game. And their bottom 3 in touchdowns allowed this season, which I think will play very heavily in their favor in slowing down Josh Allen and the Bills. I think the Bills defense, especially in the pass game, is a little bit suspect. So that'll get the Broncos maybe a little bit of spurts of momentum. But ultimately, I think the Broncos cover the 8.5 point spread and the Bills win this game by 6 or 7 points. NFC wildcard weekend, okay? This is where it gets really sticky because, boom, we have the Rams versus the Vikings. And we have a bunch of rematches in the NFC, starting with the Rams versus the Vikings. This game opens with a 1 point spread favoring Minnesota to win, okay? Now, one thing I will say about this is Sam Darnold's first ever playoff game. Again, Sam Darnold's first ever playoff game. He is a veteran in the league, but he's just never had success like he's had this season. So this will be his first playoff game. Kevin O'Connell was the Rams coordinator about 2-3 years ago. So maybe there's some history. I don't trust the Vikings to really get it done. And it really hurts me to say this being a Jettas fan, but ultimately, Matt Stafford, he's a guy. And I know I hate on Matt Stafford. I know I don't give him his flowers sometimes, in which I should. But the Vikings haven't won a playoff game since 2019, in which I'm in my feelings about because they won a playoff game against the Saints in which they got away with a pass interference call. Okay? That's besides the point. But I don't trust the Vikings. I expect them to choke like they did 2 years ago as they lost to the Giants. And that'll just be the end of the Vikings season. Next game in NFC, we have another rematch. We have the Eagles versus the Packers. Now, I'll come off record and say this. I believe the Eagles are the best team in the NFL. I felt that way about halfway through the season, but I do have one concern. It's been weighing on my heart, and damn. Jalen Hurts has been out with a concussion. Of course, they sat out the last game. Of course, he missed the game before that, but the amount of time that he spent in the concussion protocol and the amount of time that he's missed, the amount of reps that he's missed, I'm a firm believer that teams perform better when they have momentum carrying them into the playoffs. And with the Eagles not having necessarily momentum with their starting guy, there's something that doesn't really just sit well in my heart. It's bothering me. The Packers did lose Christian Watson last week. Prayers up to a speedy recovery. But I just feel like the Eagles, their defensive line, their DB core, the amount of weapons they have on offense, such as A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the great seasons they're having, and not to even mention Saquon Barkley, I think the Eagles will have way too much for anybody in the NFC. And I know a lot of people are faves of the Lions, in which you have the bye this week, but the Eagles, that game has a 4.5 point spread favoring Philly, and I believe the Eagles will cover that 4.5 points, and they'll move on to the next round. Last game of the NFC wildcard weekend, we have the Commanders versus the Bucs. Again, another rematch from this season, from the first game of JD5's career. Now, what I will say is, the first game of JD5's career, he ran the ball 16 times. And there's no way in hell I expect him to rely on his legs 16 times to go out there and play the Bucs. Especially when the Bucs passing defense has been piss poor for probably the past 2 years. So I expect JD5 to get Terry McLaurin involved. Now, looking at the Commanders defense, I hate the Commanders defense, which is a big reason why I wasn't really just high on them going into the playoffs. I wasn't really excited for them as far as the defense goes, because their run defense pisses down their leg. But the good thing about that is Rashad White isn't the greatest runner of the ball, but you do have to worry about young guys like Bucky Irving getting loose for big plays. And that's one thing that really does scare me in this matchup that has a 3-point spread favoring Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield has been playing amazing football all year. Lights out. Mike Evans, since he's come back from that injury, he's been a dog. But one thing that's different about this matchup is Chris Godwin is not available like he was in the first game of the season. And we all know how Chris Godwin started the season. He was a straight goon, okay? So what I will say is JD5 in his first playoff game, I think he gets Terry McLaurin involved early. He has a big game, and I think JD5 gets his first playoff victory in his career. That'll be all from me. Drop your predictions below. DM me, inbox me, follow me, hit the subscribe button. This is The Scoop with Cool. I'm your host, Cool, and I'll holler at y'all in the next one.
They're not moving me.
This is Scoop with Cool. This is a Scoop with Cool.
Ooh.
This is a Scoop with Cool. This is a Scoop with Cool. Yeah. This is a Scoop with Cool. This is a Scoop with Cool.
Ooh.
Backing up better than ever. Backing up better than ever. Yeah.
They're not moving me. They're not moving me.
No. It's about to get real juicy.